22nd of July 2024. This edition of Boerbeskuit, I'm going to talk about some news items and I'm going to have a laugh. I did a Skidmark Briekmerke, it was in Afrikaans, on the story of Emancipation, where you are being given the idea that you can basically, and this is basics, if you boil all this shit down, this is where you get. They are creating the illusion that you as a citizen of South Africa can basically become totally independent and autonomous, not affected by the laws of the country at all. And I don't know how it must work in practice, but let's stick to the basics. You have divorced yourself from the country in the sense that laws don't apply to you, regulations don't apply to you, fuck all applies to you. Now, the thing that bothered me about that whole idea is, okay, usually, if you go and look through history, when a group of people get this independence urge, they declare themselves independent, but they've got the ways and the means to protect their territory. Now, what I can't understand is with all this emancipation stories, seems to me there are thousands of people living here and there and everywhere around the country and they're all independent. It beats and defies all logics for me. And the thing that really intrigues me is that they give notification to the legal system of the country from which they are divorcing themselves. But I've grown used to being confronted by these illogical things. And then there was the flat earthers. That was something that, if you go and look in that video's comments, you have to laugh because, and I mean, I've been accused of everything, from being a low IQ to being brain damaged. But that's it. I asked a simple question. If the earth was flat, why can I not stand on the bluff at Durban and see Madagascar? The explanations was mind-blowing, to say the least. There are people that argue that our eyes has been designed not to be able to see that. What the fuck is that? And then they've got all sorts of stories of vapor and mist and fog and waves and fuck knows what. That's why you can't see Madagascar. And then the best one for me was one guy claimed that, why don't we fly directly from Johannesburg to Australia? We fly via the east. And I thought to myself, that's interesting, and I did a Google. Direct flights South Africa to Australia. And lo and behold, there is 6 direct flights per day from OR Tambo to Sydney. Now, I don't know how that works. But that aside, it was very entertaining to read through all the comments. But let's get to serious shit. I see this article, and the headline alone should make your hair stand up straight. South African companies are over-investing in solar power and face risks by doing so. And it was in my broadband. And then the guy goes through a lot of really solid statistics. But he makes one very important statement. And that is that the national grid doesn't have the capacity to bring all the solar in. And then there's the downside of the whole solar thing is when the sun is not shining. Now, according to this article, a very small percentage of people, especially these big guys that are building these solar plants and wind plants and whatever, they don't have enough storage capacity to actually store everything that they are generating. So there's a lot of spillover. And because of the grid congestion, that spillover just gets lost. And because of their limited battery capacities, they cannot really cope through a period from sunshine to sunshine. That non-sunshine period, they need power from something else. But the reality of this whole thing is that it is being driven from a premises that CO2 is dangerous for the world. But they don't ever, the solar proponents don't ever tell you that CO2 is only 0.004% of the atmosphere. They don't tell you that. So this whole industry is built on 0.004. Now, reputable scientists has already shown that human activity can't really affect the CO2 levels because the human activity is 3% of the 0.004%. So do the maths. You'll understand that it is a crazy story. But there's a massive global industry built on that 0.004%. Now for me, just a boer sitting here in the bush, I think it's damn risky business to build an empire on that needle point. At some stage, a fucking needle is going to break and everything is going to come down tumbling. I saw an article yesterday that they reckon that by 2050, the Earth will have to cope with 90 billion ton of redundant solar panels. Shit that cannot be recycled. And the greenies don't tell you about that. They don't tell you about that. So the farce continues. And then I saw this article. Electricity price plans will punish solar users. Now think about this for a moment. South Africa landed in deep shit with the load shedding. Eskom just could not provide enough power. And frustration was a big driving factor for a lot of consumers that could actually scrape together the money to go solar. And the solar, and I'm talking about small installations, homeowners and small businesses and things like that, made a huge difference to the power problem. And last year, SARS offered the purchases of solar panels a nice tax rebate. No rebate for the inverter and the batteries, but a rebate on the panels. And I'm wondering why that was done. But then I have connections in the solar industry and they tell me about the millions and millions and millions of rands of solar panels that they are selling. And then you have to take the calculation, your calculator, and just calculate the VAT on all those millions and millions and millions of panels. And then you see that the government is making a fucking shitload of money out of that. And people invested in the solar panels privately. But by around about March this year, it became clear that that initial target group has been saturated. And the next level that is available is not as affluent as that first group. So the importers they'll have to adjust their prices if they want to get into that lower income market. And while they're scrambling around to do that, what does Eskom and NERSA and the municipalities do? While we were busy scrambling to replace the frustrations from load shedding with solar, behind the scenes, these fuckers were working on a plan to jacking the prices up of power. And then about a month ago, they hit us with the first snot clap. First, a serious increase in rates from Eskom, and then they started in Joburg and everywhere, started hitting the solar users with a base fee. And that base fee is of such that it basically neutralizes out the savings that the homeowner got from installing solar. So, right in front of our eyes, we the consumers are being ripped off again. They first push us to put solar and now they punish us for having solar. Now my question is, why the fuck is the consumers taking this shit? Why? Why are they taking this? If you look roughly, and now there's a lot of guys that are clever that will want to come into the comments and tell me I'm talking shit and all of that. Keep your horse, hold your horses. I'm not interested in your fucking comments. I'm saying something that is, in broad general terms, very close to reality. For the average guy in South Africa, if you generate, be it in a job or what, or your small business or what, you generate 100 rand. That 100 rand, 70 rand of that will be gobbled up by taxes and fees and rates and all sorts of levies and shit. So you worked your ass off to get the 100 rand, and without raising a sweat, the government and its affiliates take 70 of that. Now you have to live off that 30%, 30 rand. You must make a living out of that, because the 100 that you have generated, the government just simply took 70 of that. And now I've got a question. You look at some of those dimwits sitting in Parliament. There are people there that will most probably fail every IQ test that you can think of, done in any way you can imagine. They're plain fucking stupid and dumb. But they sit in Parliament and they earn a 6-figure salary. Now you must understand what makes me fucking angry. That thing is not even qualified to be unemployed. He is not qualified to be unemployed. Try and make that make sense for you. And then he gets that humongous fucking salary. Out of your 30 rand, you have to pay for your food, you pay for your house, you pay for your electricity, and you have to pay for your car, and you have to educate your children. You must make a living out of that 30 rand that they leave graciously in your hands. That 70 rand is used to finance stupid fuckers that sits in Parliament and in provincial councils and on municipal councils and things like that. Useless people that contributes fuck all to society and contributes fuck all to the economy. You are paying their salaries. Then they get that humongous salary. On top of that, they get a free house, they get a free car, they are entertained like hell, they've got no load shedding, plus they've got a humongous security apparatus costing us, the taxpayers, something like 526 billion rand per year to finance that. How the fuck is that? How can you justify that? To pay a moped R1 million a year for doing fuck all. You can't even trust a fucker to come into your house and clean your fucking toilet, because he will most probably either break the seat off or fuck the bowl up. But he gets R1 million a year salary, and yet the people takes it. Now, I cannot understand that. And then there was people that made comments on some of my videos and they accused me of being a fucking dimwit and I don't know what, and I don't understand how things work and so forth. Now, I've got news for them. I have got a fairly good understanding. Some fucker even told me flat out, I don't know how XXX operates. What the fuck? I invented that shit. But, leave it be as it may. the reality is. All these instruments and associations and secret operations and whatever you want to fucking call them has been built, some of them over centuries, specifically aimed at fucking us up eventually. Because there's a small elite that are of the opinion that they are the only people that must be allowed to have a life on this earth, and they are the only people that must have assets. They can have things. They can eat what they like. The rest of us are fucking well like insects. They don't care. And that has been planned over a long period of time, but the tragedy is most of the people don't pay attention to it. I listened to a video the other night where a lady was talking about it, and she said, somebody pegs from that snake bite and you send them condolences and you carry on with your life. Meantime, you've also taken that thing. So your day of falling over is coming. But people just carry on. Nobody says, stop this shit. Nobody says that. Everybody just follows the wind. Let's call it the wind. And now the signs are clear. They are dead set. Triple X are dead set on fucking our food supply. And a lot of people are helping them doing it. They're helping them doing it. And we see those people on the TVs, we see them in the news pages and on Facebook and everywhere. They are assisting Triple X to fuck our food production up. But to you and me, they present themselves as an association that actually cares. They don't give a shit about you and me. All they are interested in is how much money can they make and how much control they can have. I looked at a video of a black woman that is a small chicken farmer, and the things that she said to the reporter. And I watched it and I thought to myself, it's a fucking tragedy that people like she is going to be wiped out. And now you get this keyboard warriors sitting on social media, we want the land, we want the land, we want the land. And then they look at the land that the white farmers are producing on, and that is the land that they've got in their fucking minds. But what they don't understand is that the government already owns about 70% of the land in the country. And for you dimwits, yes, you keyboard warriors, here is something to ask yourself. The problem is you won't be able to work the answer out because it's above your mental capacity. But go and ask some old guys that has got brains still. You don't have brains, you've got shit for brains. Go and ask some old guys. What happened to all the land of all the homelands that was there before 94? What happened to that land? I can assure you white people don't own that land. And then you must ask yourself, why the fuck is the government not giving? Because it's some of the best agricultural land in the country. That is the other thing that you dimwits don't understand. The prime agricultural land was in the homelands. Transkei, Ciskei, KwaZulu, Leboa, all these. It's prime agricultural land. What happened to that land? Who is in control of that land? Why is that land not producing? Reality is going to hit you the day that you walk into that supermarket and there's fuck all on the shelves. That's the day. But then you're going to blame me and apartheid and all of that cuck. Meanwhile, you allowed the government, the politicians, to steal everything. And I listened the other night to a debate, and then this one fucking intellectual giant from the EFF made a statement that they don't give a shit for foreign investors in the country, the foreign investors must all fuck off. They will take everything over. And I thought, fuck. That is basically similar to that one ANC dimwit that said they don't care if the rand falls. If the rand falls, they'll pick it up. Shit for brains. Shit for brains. But call me a fucking racist. I don't care. You're the ones that are going to suffer. You're the ones that are going to pay for your stupidity. You must understand. Stupidity is not free. It comes with a price. And the stupid guy, he must pay the price for the stupidness. Because he owns the stupid. So, there's a few things that I've mentioned now that you can think about. Just really sit down for a moment and think. But the biggest thing that we have to take from this is how this government cabal is working together to now use the solar investments that we made to fuck us. Don't forget it. And then I'm going to end it off on this GNU. I had an impromptu live show last night, and one of the commentators made the comment that he sees the ANC is using the DA and the Freedom Front Plus now sort of as their HR department to sort the cuck out that the ANC couldn't sort out. And it makes a lot of sense, and I agree 100% with him. It was that is what it is. Don't pin your hope on the GNU. That GNU will not last. It cannot last. Because the natural, organic forces of the people is going to destroy the damn thing for any case. Because as I said in the live last night, if you look at that GNU, it is as if you are trying to make a South African boerbeskuit kos, and stir fry, Chinese stir fry in one pan. That can never work. It can only turn out slop, flop. That's what it will be. But think about how they are lining us up, and we are just taking it. I mean, that fixed fees that Eskom, that the municipalities are pushing now on the consumers in the cities, Eskom is already working on getting that on a national basis. So they want to drop the cost per kilowatt hour that we as consumers pay, but they want to up a fixed rate. Now, as it is today, I get my power directly from Eskom. If you look at my Eskom account, the actual power that I use, the cost of that power, is only about 52% of my total account. The other 48% is all those fancy tariffs and the fees and things like that. So we have to wake up. They have a plan to destroy us financially. And the sickening part is we are allowing them to do it. So, come back to my propaganda. We must go back tribal. It's only the tribes. It's only the tribes that can break XXX. Only the tribes. No government, no politician will ever do it. I'm going to leave this as a closing thought. I have a funny feeling that the BRICS bloc is busy sidelining South Africa. Why do I say that? Just think about this. Did we have representation at that BRICS conference in Russia where they were discussing the BRICS parliament? I haven't seen anything about that. The second thing is, the BRICS Games is just finished. Apparently there were a few people from South Africa competing in the games there, but what is absolutely funny, actually, I haven't seen any reports in our media about the BRICS Games or about the competitors at the BRICS game. And now I'm going to give you this one to think about. The ICJ came now out and they have grilled Israel. I have said all along, the ANC was set up by BRICS and Iran was used to prod the ANC to take Israel to the ICJ. And listen what I'm saying. There's the masterminds in BRICS is Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. Those are the masterminds. All throughout this case of Israel at the ICJ, there was never a moment that China or Russia actually made big statements about the case. They were sitting quietly there in the background, watching that fuck up, because I am sure the ANC was set up. Now, we've reached a point that there's now been a judgment given and so forth, and orders made, and already I am reading in the sources that I have that there are people that are now beginning to say, okay, so the ANC make this big fucking noise at the ICJ about the mistreatment of the Palestinians. But what about the mistreatment of the minorities in South Africa? Either promoted or condoned or ignored by the ANC. And you guys may think, it's just babble. For me, that is that little finger of fate that is creeping in. And it is my personal opinion that that finger is powered by Russia and China. And that finger is going to bring some partners with him, and they're going to get the ANC by the throat. Watch. Just watch for this. Because from what I see in my sources, when there are discussions around BRICS and the BRICS countries and so forth, South Africa is rarely mentioned. But you hear about how Iran has benefited from BRICS with the export of domestic products that they make to BRICS partners. All of them are talking about trade all the time. And here's at South Africa on the sideline with an economy that has been fucked by the ANC. Industrial base has been fucked by the ANC. And those other BRICS partners, they know that the ANC fucked. And you get Julius jumping up and down with all his fucking stories. The big thing is this. The other BRICS countries look at him and they think, fuck, we just need to keep an arm length from that guy. He's a lunatic. And they see all the things, and they see how the South Africa that they knew from 30 years back, it was the joint of Africa. They see how that thing has collapsed. But these dimwits in the red overalls, they don't understand that. They think the rest of the world is as blind and as stupid as they are. And there was that old saying that says, when you die, you don't know it. It's only the people around you that knows you dead. And the same when you're an idiot. It is the people around you that know you're an idiot. You don't know it yourself. But what can I say? They always tell us about their superior logic and their natural intelligence. But that fucking two things that they brag about has collapsed severely and has been destroyed. Now, I want to say to the people that are listening to the show, if there's somebody that can put me in contact with Ike Kumalo, I would really love that. I would like to have a discussion with him, because that man is not afraid to use his brain. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.